Hello guys, I'm Ellen. My story is about my husband who tried to leave me because I wasn't rich enough for him. You must be wondering why. Well, I'll tell you. It's not like I had magically lost my job or did something financially bad. It's just that I never went to college, so I didn't have a very high-paying job. I had a decent income, and my husband Rick knew that from the beginning. I didn't hide anything from him. Rick was someone with a high income but had lots of student loans from his college, so he and I actually had a similar lifestyle. At that time, Rick didn't think it would be a problem, so our relationship progressed as usual, and we finally decided to get married. Shortly before we got married, Rick did tell me that he wanted to sign a prenup. He said that since he had a pretty high-paying job, he had a fear that people would use him for money. He also explained that he didn't want me to be shackled with his loan, so he wanted us to have a prenup. Look, I knew I wasn't a gold digger, and I found it a little disrespectful that he didn't trust me, but I didn't deny his request. I agreed to the prenup, and thank God I did. It saved me later in my marriage. Troubles in our marriage didn't start until we found ourselves with no place to live. Our landlord told us to leave because he was selling the house, and since the housing market was horrible in our city, we had to move in with my mother-in-law, Natalie. Now, let me be very clear about one thing. My husband is the only problem here. Natalie was a cold woman who didn't care much about me, but she wasn't one of those nasty mother-in-laws you read about. She was a little annoyed that she had to host us for free, so maybe her behavior towards us was a little bad, but we managed to get along just fine. Somehow, after moving in with Natalie, my husband started to show resentment towards the fact that I couldn't help him buy a house. Since he had student loans, he couldn't qualify for a loan, and I didn't have the means to pay a down payment. So we were stuck in a bad place with very limited housing options. We still had a decent life until Natalie sprung some shocking news on us. She said to us one day, "You two need to move out of the house and find a different accommodation. I won't be able to house you anymore." "Why, Mom? What's the problem?" "I can't keep up with my mortgage payments anymore, so I have decided to sell the house, so you need to find other accommodations." "But we have nowhere to go, Mom. We can't get rent with whatever money we can spare." "That's not my problem, Rick. Since you two cannot help me with the mortgage, I would have to sell this house. I'm giving you plenty of time to come up with your own solutions." Natalie just said that and let us fend for ourselves. She didn't want us to move out immediately, but said that once she found a buyer, things would move fast. Suddenly, Rick and I were starting to worry about our housing situation yet again. He got very frustrated that night and started to blame me for his troubles. He said, "Why can't you get a better job? You earn so little, it's not enough for us." "What can I do, Rick? I don't have a college degree, so this is the best I can do." "You don't even have enough savings for a down payment on a house. If you weren't this lazy, you could have worked 2 jobs and got the money." "I can't work 2 jobs, Rick. I have to do everything around the house. You don't even help." "It's not my job to help, Ellen. We have a roof over our heads because of me, and now even that will be gone. I don't know what I was thinking when I married you." Rick's words hurt, and I started to cry. We had a bigger fight, but calmed down the next day. I was really bad for both of us because I knew he was stressed. I set aside my own emotions and started to form a plan. I had made a small investment which I could break to provide a down payment on a house. I talked to some friends and they were confident that I would qualify for a mortgage. When I discovered that, I immediately began to form a plan. I wanted to get a house for me and my husband, and I knew exactly what would be the best way to get one. I had been planning to buy Natalie's house. I found out her asking price and realized that I could afford the mortgage. Actually, I had very little experience with these things and didn't realize that I would be able to buy a house. Once I was sure about my finances, I had to decide whether or not I should approach Natalie with an offer. When I had already made the decision, I contacted Natalie's agent and set up a meeting. I wanted it to be a surprise for my husband, so I didn't want to tell Natalie anything directly. So I met up with her and her agent at a cafe. She was really surprised to see me and said, "Hey, Ellen, what are you doing here? I'm here to see an interested buyer for my house. I didn't expect to see you here." "Yes, I know that, Natalie. I am your interested buyer, actually." "Wait, what?" "Yes, I want to buy your house." "What? You're saying that you want to buy my house?" Natalie looked at me like I had grown two heads. She had a hard time believing that I wanted to buy her house. I won't completely blame her for this reaction. My husband had always downplayed my job and complained to her that I didn't know how to save. Rick had painted a very bad picture of me to his mother. So when I told her that I would like to buy her house, she was in disbelief. I wasn't offended at all. Instead, I just calmly told her, "I have managed to save up for a down payment, and I will take a mortgage for the rest. It won't be a problem. You can also continue living here rent-free as a thank you for helping us out when we needed it." "But I don't think you can afford it. I have a hard time believing you." "Well, I have good credit score, so I can easily qualify for a loan." "Rick can't do that because his debts have crippled him, so I am the only one who is in a position to buy a house." "Won't you be happier if the house stays within your family?" "Yes, that is true, Eleanor. I guess it would really be better if I sold it to you." "Think about it, Natalie. You need the money and I need a house of my own. This is like the best deal ever. All you have to do is agree to sign everything over to me. I will take care of the rest." "Okay, let me think about it." "Sure, you do that, Natalie, but I have one request." "Can you not tell Rick about this? I want to surprise him with the house on our first anniversary." I see. Okay, then I won't tell him. I will get back to you once I think about your offer." Natalie went back home while I went to work. I was really excited to buy her house because I knew Rick would love it. He really loved his mom's house because it was big and quite spacious, so I was sure he would have approved of what I did. Besides, if he didn't like the house, he could easily buy one for himself once his credit improved. We had separate assets, and the prenup also reinforced that, so he could buy another house if he wanted. I happily went back to work and waited for Natalie to make a decision. Things were normal for a few days, even though Rick was even more distant than before. I knew that he was stressed about our living situation, and that was what was making him so distant. I tried to comfort him and give him hope, but he just got mad at me and told me to leave him alone. I was a little hurt, but didn't say anything. I was still holding on to the hope that things would go back to normal once I was able to purchase Natalie's house. Even if she had said no, I would have found a different house for us anyway. With that hope in mind, I put up with my husband's bad mood, but everything would change for me when I stumbled across some papers. I think you guys can guess where this is going. Yes, they were divorce papers. I was in complete disbelief when I saw those papers. I read through every page to make sure it was meant for me, and yes, they were meant for me, but I wasn't meant to find out about it. It was hidden away in Rick's office bag. I had opened his bag to take out its lunchbox and instead stumbled open those papers. I was curious when I saw those papers because I knew they were court documents. He didn't work in law, so I had no idea why he had court documents in his bag. My mind froze, and I went into shock when I realized that they were divorce papers for us. I had no idea why he was divorcing me, but I knew that I couldn't confront him right then. I never told Rick that I knew he had filed for divorce. What I did do was snoop through his phone to find out what he was up to. I suspected that he may be having an affair, so I thought checking his phone would give me some clues. I know it's wrong, but I was desperate and it was the only way. So I snooped through his phone and found texts between him and his best friend. The things my husband wrote about me were awful. He called me useless, good for nothing, lazy, and a bad wife. Why? Because I wasn't buying him a house and didn't have the money to do so. He was mad that I wasn't some rich girl he could depend on. Apparently, some rich girl was flirting with him on Facebook, which made him think that he could do better. I was shocked to see those texts and immediately knew that my marriage was over. But that didn't mean I was going to leave silently. Oh no, I was going to make my husband pay for this. That day, I thanked God for making me sign the prenup. It has saved me more than it saved Rick. You want to know why? Because Natalie secretly met me the next day and said that she was ready to sell the house to me. She said, "I thought about it, Eleanor. I guess you are the best option right now. I don't have much time left anyway. I can't make next month's mortgage payment, so you need to take it up as soon as possible." "Sure, Natalie. You can draw up the papers and I will get a lawyer right away. Believe me, I do not want to wait either. The anniversary is only a few weeks away, you know." "Yeah, I remember that's why I made the decision fast. I've already told my lawyer to draw the papers. It will be in your hands soon." Yes, I bought Natalie's house anyway, guys. It was a really good house and I wanted to get back at Rick for what he was planning to do. I had made some plans of my own that were going to make him regret his actions. I was breaking from the inside because the man I loved was planning to betray me in the worst way possible. But I didn't let it show. I was a little sad, but Rick didn't bother to care. I guess he had already checked out of the marriage and was enjoying the attention of the rich girl on Facebook. Anyway, I slowly stopped caring till the papers were signed for the house. After that, I simply wanted my revenge and then to get rid of my horrible husband as soon as possible. Thankfully, I was able to get the house in my name before our anniversary. On the day of our anniversary, I didn't even bother with a celebration because I didn't want to waste money on a failing marriage. I know that some of you have arranged parties and confronted their husbands publicly. It is a nice idea, but for a woman who had spent almost all her money on the down payment of a house, I wasn't looking to spend any extra. So I acted like it was a normal day, even though I had wished my husband a very happy anniversary. He had grumbled something in return and left. Now, the confrontation didn't happen until the evening when we both returned home from work. To my surprise, Natalie had invited a few family members to celebrate the day. I guess she was feeling generous after receiving money for the house, so she called a few family members and cooked some food. She generally looked a little excited for us. I was kind of touched by this, but Rick immediately got angry. He said, "What is this? What's going on?" "Oh, I just invited family so that we can celebrate your anniversary today. It is your first anniversary after all. I saw that you two didn't plan anything." "That wasn't necessary, Mom. Eleanor didn't plan anything because she never had money, and I didn't plan anything because I wasn't interested in celebrating our anniversary. This marriage has come to an end anyway." "What do you mean, Rick? Why are you saying that your marriage has come to an end?" Rick didn't bother giving his mother a reply. Instead, he turned to me and looked me dead in the eyes. I knew that this was when he would tell me that he was leaving me. And I was right. He looked at me and said, "I don't think I can be in this marriage anymore, Eleanor. I'm going to leave you forever." "Why, Rick? You can't just spring news like this upon me and not tell me why." "The reason is very simple, Eleanor. You are an absolutely useless wife to me." "Oh, really, Rick? Tell me why you think I'm useless." "You were not on my level, Eleanor. I worked such a great job and you were just an embarrassment to me. You can't even help me buy a house. I don't want to be with someone who can't help me get the things I need." "It's not my fault that your credit is bad, Rick. Why should it fall on me to get a house?" "Because we're a couple. I know you are not rich, but I thought maybe you would be able to buy me a house at least." but now I don't even think you'll qualify for a loan. I can't stay with a woman like that when I can do so much better. I will at least find a woman who has the means to have her own house. So, you're leaving me because I'm not rich enough for you, is that so? Yes, I don't care what you think, Ellen. Don't try to stop me. I won't be with you. I'm done. Very well then, Rick. If you think that and know that you can get someone better, then go ahead and leave. I will happily grant you a divorce. Good. You need to move out soon then, because this isn't your house. Mom, you need to tell her to leave and find her own place. Rick now looked at his mother, hoping she would agree to kick me out, but he hadn't expected my mother-in-law to look pale and startled. She was shaking because she knew exactly how much Rick had messed up. She was the only one who knew that I had bought her house from her exactly a week back. The papers have been finalized, and now I am the sole owner of the house. So even though Rick wanted his mother to kick me out now, she couldn't do it. Natalie remained quiet and didn't say anything at first. Then Rick kept telling her that she needed to tell me to move out. And that's when I said, I think you're barking up the wrong tree, Rick. Natalie cannot actually kick me out. Why the hell not, Ellen? This is her house, so she can kick you out. Actually, you're wrong about that, Rick. This house doesn't belong to her anymore. What do you mean? My mother is the owner of this house. Nope, she's not the owner anymore. I am the new owner of this place. What nonsense are you spewing, Ellen? This cannot be your house. It is my house, Rick. If you don't believe me, why don't you ask your mother? Mom, what nonsense is Ellen saying? Did you give her this house or something? Natalie actually looked too afraid to say anything. She remained frozen while the rest of her guests looked on. Rick was absolutely sure that the house was in no way mine, so he kept hounding his mother for an answer, and after a while Natalie meekly said, Yes, it's true. This house is hers now. What? No, that cannot be possible. Did you suddenly grow charitable and give away the house to Ellen, Mom? No, Rick. I don't need anyone's charity. I bought the house all by myself. I don't believe it. You cannot afford this house. You cannot even afford the down payment. What would you like to say to that, Natalie? You're wrong, Rick. Ellen has actually bought the house from me. We finalized the paper last week, and she was planning to surprise you today with the news, but it looks like you have ruined it. Natalie confirmed what I had told Rick, and his eyes went wide with shock. He couldn't believe that I was able to save up and buy the house. He had clearly underestimated me and was proven how wrong he was. When the realization dawned on him, he immediately understood that he had messed up. He then tried to change his tune and said, Oh, wow! That was a great surprise, Ellen. I didn't know that you were saving and planning on buying Mom's house. I can see that, Rick. Natalie's right, though. You have completely ruined my surprise. No, we can still celebrate. Celebrate what, Rick? Our divorce or your exit from my house? What are you saying, Ellen? You wanted a divorce, right? You will get it. I won't be in a marriage where my husband wants to leave me because I'm not rich. Come on, Ellen. I was mad and said some stupid things. We can talk about this and get past this. The main problem has been solved already. I don't think so, Rick. Besides, you went through all the hassle of secretly securing divorce papers. Too bad I had found them out 2 weeks ago and prepared my own papers instead. Rick looked on while I drew some papers out of my work bag. I handed him the papers and he started to see what they were about. You can tell that he wasn't happy when he saw that they were eviction papers. His hands shook, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said, Are these eviction papers? I thought you read what these papers are, Rick. Since you have a hard time reading simple English, let me confirm it for you. Yes, they are eviction papers for you and Natalie. You're kicking us out, Ellen? But where will we go? Don't do this, Ellen. Let's work this out. Don't make me laugh, Rick. You want to go find a rich girl, right? Get on with it. I'm sure she'll have a place for you to stay. I said things out of anger, Ellen. Please, don't hold it against me. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that you were working hard to get us a house. Nope, this is my house, Rick. You have no claim to it now that we are divorcing. We got a prenup, remember? Thanks for that. Now I have a house to myself while getting rid of a horrible husband that was you. I said what I had to say and remained quiet. Rick absolutely went mad in panic and started to beg me to forgive him. He started to tell me how much he loved me and knew that he had messed up. Suddenly, staying with a no-rich girl was appearing lucrative to him. He was begging me to stay with him when a few days ago he was preparing for divorce. He had even made a show of tearing up the divorce papers in front of me. I simply laughed and told him that I could always file them myself, and that made him cry and fall down on the floor to beg for mercy. Natalie also joined her son in trying to convince me. To her, I was no longer an annoyance. She was really banking on the fact that I had offered to let her stay in the house rent-free. But now that her son and I are divorcing, that isn't happening. I even prepared eviction papers in her name so that she could not throw a tantrum. I got them done on the day the house was transferred to my name. Natalie knew that the only way for her to live anywhere rent-free was to beg me to stay married to her son. But sadly, for both Rick and Natalie, their wishes weren't coming true. In the next few days, Natalie and Rick continued to pester me to forgive Rick. Since family members were present when everything happened, they knew the truth about Rick. No one was willing to take them in after that. They even berated Rick for being such an evil man and left the little get-together early. Now that Rick's own family has turned their backs on him, he begged me for mercy. But he wasn't going to get any. I simply ignored them and kept reminding them that they had a month to move out. Rick and I got divorced no matter how hard he tried to stop it, and Natalie and Rick had to also move out of my house once their 1-month grace period was up. They tried their best to convince me, but I wasn't moved. Rick and I went for a mutual divorce because Rick couldn't afford to contest me in court. Since we had a prenup, the divorce was fairly smooth, and I kept the house and got no alimony. Rick kept his debts, but ended up homeless. He and his mother had to get an apartment together to save money. From what I have heard, neither of them are doing very well. I don't have any pity for Rick, but sometimes I feel bad for Natalie, who isn't as bad as him. Anyway, I have a house now and can finally live a good life without having a husband who constantly demeans me.